It's open.
Alright, what's up?
Not much, man. Just watching TV.
So how you been, man?
Been alright. This house reminds me of an old house I used to live in.
Looks like it's seen better days, man. It's pretty beat up.
Yeah, I used to live out in like the middle of nowhere, like in bumfuck nowhere. It was the ghetto. The house was like falling apart. I remember we lived right next to the railroad tracks, and we had this garage that my stepdad, who I thought was my real dad at the time, would smoke pot in like all the time, drink beer. I mean, now I know that, but like back then I just thought they were like just hanging out, you know, smoking cigarettes and shit. But my mom would never let me in there when they were doing that. No, he was like a cokehead and shit too, though. The earliest thing I remember, I guess you could say, is when my sister was born, and that was when I was about 3. And around that time, my mom was out of the house a lot because she was working, and my stepdad had this guy over once at the house. I was hungry, so I was crying.
That's good shit. Disappear.
I knew we didn't have anything to eat, but I was still crying because I was like a little kid, you know. And this guy, he was just like,
Shut that little fuck up or I'm leaving.
he cocked the gun and pointed in my face.
Shut the fuck up!
Did you ever tell your mom what was going on?
I didn't tell her anything because Ed told me not to tell her anything.
How'd your mom deal with everything that was happening, like you witnessing everything that was going on?
Most of the time it was her calling my grandparents up to come get me. And I remember I went to my grandparents a lot. And my grandfather used to be into drugs and stuff too. So he got prescribed all this stuff to help him get off the drugs, like to wean him.
See all of these? There's a particular one. This one right here, I keep on the top here. You do not want to take this one. This is very important to Grandpa because it restarts my heart. You know, because Grandpa's heart's kind of old, a little rusty. This solves the rust problem. You take it, it's going to make you sick, and it could possibly take you away from us a little sooner than we would like. Okay, buddy?
Now I knew he was probably exaggerating a little bit. So what I did is I just started stealing. Every time I'd see him lay one out, I'd take it. And I ended up getting a handful of pills. And I probably had 12 to 15. And it was just nice knowing, like, having those underneath my pillow when I was young. I mean, I know I was only 5, but I thought about suicide from when I was like 5 until I was like 15. It was just nice knowing if I wanted to, I could slip away from it all. You know? And then my mom introduced me to my real dad.
Hey Brett, this is your dad.
How you doing, buddy?
It was a real big relief knowing that the man that I thought was so horrible and I thought was my real father actually wasn't my father. It was nice knowing he was just my stepdad. So I was happy for a while. Didn't really think about suicide, but that happiness was short-lived.
What do you mean by short-lived?
Okay. I'm gonna have to tell you the whole story, but my father brought me over to this family's house. He was with this girl, and she had like nieces and nephews and stuff, and they thought it would be nice if I hung out with the kids. Well, she thought it would be nice if I hung out with the kids. I come to find out that he had other intentions, but I'll tell you those intentions in a little bit. So they took me over there. Every time I went to go see my dad. And I became really close friends with the girl in the family. And then out of nowhere, he was gone.
Where did he go?
Well, I didn't know at the time, but when I was like 12, 13, after a lot of this shit, like, gone away, I found the family ended up moving next to my grandparents.
Do you know where your dad is?
What?
Your dad.
No.
He's in prison.
Why?
He raped my sister.
My mom kind of left me though. Like, when I was, you know how I just kind of skipped over to when I was like 12?
Yeah.
In between there, my mom had become an alcoholic because my stepdad, she broke up with him, and for some god-awful reason, I guess she cared about him enough, even though all the abuse that went on and all this shit, she broke down, and she became an alcoholic, and she just left me at my grandparents for like 3 years of my life. So after my dad left, I went over to my grandparents, and then my mom just went out drinking.